It's my first time voting.
Oh, you're a first-time voter. Who would you like to win?
Trump.
This bothers
Me,
you?
I am Puerto Rican, so that was like, I was like, wow, like I don't really like that, you know? I don't know, really. I really don't know, honestly. It's
So
hard.
as a Puerto Rican, you're okay with that, though?
No, definitely not. I just think, you know, like people, like everyone has opinions. Like, you know, if they don't like Puerto Ricans, it hurts, of course. But at the end of the day, I'm okay with who I am, and at the end of the day, I want to be able to have a better life in the future.
People are curious. Are you comfortable telling who you voted for president?
We'll keep that under wraps, but I do urge everybody to go out and vote. Obviously, it's super important that at the end of the day, you know, there are so many people out there, especially people I know who, you know, have that same mentality of my vote doesn't count. But, you know, when you have a bunch of people that think that, it's going to sway an election. So got to get out there.
Let's be the system, Anderson. The vote.
Who'd you vote for today?
I voted for Kamala Harris.
Why is that?
I have 3 daughters, 4 children overall, and women's rights is pretty important to them and my daughters. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional about that. I didn't think that I was going to do that, but you know, just their bodies, their choice type of a mentality. You know, I want them to grow up in a world that's welcoming to everybody. So yeah, that's why I cast my vote today.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about a brutal reality check for CNN, who has been platforming propagandists that are spreading this idea that the Trump campaign is the campaign that is falling apart, right? You know, propagandists from The Atlantic, which is an outlet that is infamous for making things up about Trump. Yeah, they're going on CNN and making up even more things about Trump that make absolutely no sense. Take a look.
All right, Tim Alberta's out front, staff writer for The Atlantic. He spoke with nearly a dozen of Trump's aides and advisors for his latest article, headlined, quote, "Inside the Ruthless, Restless Final Days of Trump's campaign." Final days of Trump's campaign, sorry. So, Tim, I guess from everyone you're speaking to, the feeling that you're getting from the inside the campaign, do you think Trump thinks he's going to win the election?
Yeah, Aaron, I think that he does. Because I think he, of course, has a pretty distorted view of political reality. I think that's been the case for quite some time. He does believe that he's going to win. And I think as of a few weeks ago, people close to him were still pretty bullish on his prospects. I'm not sure that's the case anymore. I think that there is a real fear that the bottom has started to fall out here at the worst possible moment, and that they are closing about as weak a fashion as you possibly could. If sprinting through the tape is at one extreme, I think sort of crawling or limping through the tape is at the other, and that's how a lot of the Trump folks feel.
Yeah, so again, more made up BS from The Atlantic, citing anonymous Trump sources, no real names, no evidence whatsoever that any of these things were said. But again, the narrative that is being put out there is that the bottom is falling out of the Trump campaign, right? This is what they want to put out there going into election day, right? As people are currently voting, because according to early voter turnout numbers, it seems like it's not the Trump campaign whose bottom is falling out. No, it's actually the Kamala Harris campaign, in which CNN gets a brutal reality check on exactly the current state of the race right now, in which even Van Jones admit that, yeah, I'm very worried about places like Philadelphia and Pennsylvania because of the voter turnout issue that Kamala Harris clearly has. Take a look.
The math doesn't work. The Democrats are down 1.7 million early votes in the battleground states. In urban areas, they are down 1.4 million votes in the battleground states. Among women voters, rural voters have overperformed early by 300,000. Democrats have to win their races early. Republicans generally win them on election day. And the margins don't add up right now for the Democrats in any of these battleground states.
Worried, Philadelphia is where we've got to run up a big margin. But Philly overall has been trending down, not in terms of going toward the Republicans, just people not getting out to vote. And so you got people out there like Pastor Carl Day, who's got a bunch of young men with him, knocking on doors, trying to get people to come out. It's a bigger, tougher fight in Philly to get that vote count up than it has been in the past. That has me worried. The other thing that has me worried is that the Jewish vote in the suburban areas, Biden won the Jewish vote by 70%, 70-30 last time. Some polls show Kamala at 50-50. That is 70,000 votes we bled away. That is the margin for victory. So you got groups like Zioness, Amanda Berman out there fighting to get the Jewish vote back on board. This is a tough
Trump campaign doing ads
and
to
the
try
Trump
to
campaign pushing the other direction. So this is it is door to door, bruised knuckles, tired legs, a lot of coffee, and I'm nervous and worried, and I'm not going to be anyway until this thing gets called.
Okay, is there anything that is making you happy about Pennsylvania?
No, there's nothing making me happy about Pennsylvania. You got David Urban out there causing us trouble in the rural parts of the state. Get David Urban on this show and keep him here all day, and then I'll feel better.
Just don't let him leave.
I don't want him out there.
Same question to you. Is anything making you happy about Pennsylvania? Is everything making you nervous?
I just have to say, if only there's something that Kamala Harris could have done early in this campaign to help with the Jewish voters of Pennsylvania. Could it have been that the governor of Pennsylvania is a Jewish American who would have been, and a very popular one?
Just because if she'd been Josh Shapiro doesn't mean every Jew is going to be voting for her.
I mean, it might have meant a whole bunch of Pennsylvanians voted for her. This could go down as the biggest.
Moving on.
I'm just saying. Anyway, I understand why you're nervous. Look, I think whoever wins Pennsylvania, I mean, obviously, 90+% chance are going to be the next president. And so these campaigns have pulled out all the stops there. The fact that Harris is going there a ton means I think they're nervous about it. And I look at some of this this early voting stuff, and it's like a witch's cauldron. You can lean over and smell the vapors, and you can kind of sort of see what you want to see in it. And Republicans have some reason to believe that maybe the Democrats aren't doing quite as well with their turnout operation. But the reality is nobody knows nothing. And so for old political operatives like Van and me, that does make you nervous because of the closeness of the polling and just the uncertainty around all the data.
Scott Jennings is taking the conservative approach, but listening to what Van Jones just said, I mean, it tells you everything you need to know, right? Democrats are incredibly nervous about Pennsylvania. In fact, the race could come down to Pennsylvania. This is why you have Kamala Harris staging door knocking in Pennsylvania, because she's trying to motivate people to go out and to do more door knocking and to get people to come and vote. And again, so far, it just hasn't been a whole lot of enthusiasm when it comes to getting out and voting for Kamala Harris. And lo and behold, even on election day, as we start to get some early numbers coming in, again, this is preliminary, okay? But again, I just want to document what happens throughout the day, right? Look at Florida, in which, you had a lot of these propagandists claiming that, well, Florida may flip blue because of the Iowa poll, right? But again, when you look at the actual election day numbers by party, Republicans are really outpacing Democrats by a lot, right? By almost double. Now, maybe the cope here is that those other 170K ballots, maybe those are all going towards Democrats, right? And they are more enthusiastic about voting for Kamala Harris than actual Democrats, right? But I highly doubt it, okay? I don't know. But again, the liberal media was telling me that Florida could go blue because of some poll out of Iowa by Ann Seltzer showing Kamala Harris beating Trump, right? This is what they were telling us. But again, if you look at these early voting numbers and if you look at the election day numbers coming in, it seems like that trend is holding of Democrats not really showing up to vote for Kamala Harris. But again, we will see. It's all preliminary. However, again, this does match the data that was put out there by the most accurate pollster of 2020 and 2022 that the liberal media did not parade around and ask him, why do you have Trump winning all of these swing states?
All right, so you pretty much nailed 2020, and you were up against a lot of respectable polling outfits. Right now, you have Trump up 1 in Pennsylvania, but where is he in the rest of the battlegrounds, Andre?
Thank you so much for inviting me on your show, Jesse. Since the beginning of this race, Atlas Intel has shown a structural advantage for Trump. So across the board, in the Rust Belt, in the Sun Belt, he's consistently pulled ahead of Kamala Harris. We're showing him within 2 points of Harris in the state of Minnesota. So that's,
wow. Wait, say that again. You have Trump within 2 in Minnesota?
Yeah. So that really points to a structural advantage, right? I mean, all of these swing states are very competitive. The political machine on both sides is very strong. The amount of money, of resources that's spent on these campaigns is huge, right? So in states where Democrats have traditionally improved, like in North Carolina or in Georgia, structurally they're continuing to improve, but they're sort of battling against large disapproval rates for the current president. And in some of the states where they're leading before, also because of structural changes, like in Nevada, we think that Trump has a good chance of, for example, turning Nevada, and he is pretty close in our numbers in the only poll we released so far in Minnesota.
All right, so you say you're going to give Trump Nevada. Now, Clark County, where Vegas is historically corrupt. There's a machine. They have ward bosses. They do what they need to do every election to get the Democrat in there. Why do you think Trump will be able to propel over that Clark County machine this time in Nevada?
No, the machine vote is something that polling generally doesn't capture well. So if the machines will have a huge impact, then it means we should expect a result that is perhaps different from our polling. Now, in terms of what the tendencies are in the state of Nevada, and that's actually similar to Arizona as well, you're seeing a very heavy turnout in rural areas, and you're seeing quite depressed turnout in urban areas. Suburbs indicate that more conservative voters are showing up and kind of compensating for progressive voters that aren't. So on the balance and the early vote, rural areas are really looking really good for Trump. And everyone is sort of wondering about election day cannibalization. Is it the case that these voters, instead of showing up on election day, already voted, and maybe they're a depressed turnout on election day? That is possible, but I don't think all of the voters that didn't show up on the Democrat side so far will show up on election day. So at the end of the day, you have to look sort of at magnitudes on both sides and try to understand on balance what is more relevant. What I would say is that overall, the data so far kind of suggests that the conservative base this time around appears to be more excited about participating in this election cycle, while the progressive base is a bit more demobilized.
Okay, well, we'll see how it shakes out. You nailed it last time. Let's see if you can go 2 for 2. Andre, good to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Jesse.
Yeah, so what we should be watching for here all day, guys, and this is what I'm going to be watching for, is whether or not Democrats actually show up to vote for Kamala Harris on election day, okay? Because Democrats will have you believe that, hey, it's not a big deal that Democrats aren't really showing up to early vote for Kamala Harris. And this is happening across all of the swing states, by the way, right? That's not really a big deal because Democrats are just going to show up on election day. Now, we know historically Republicans tend to show up and vote more on election day. And essentially what they're banking on is for Republicans to have already voted early, okay? And they won't vote as much on election day. And Democrats not voting as much early, but they're going to vote more on election day, which is literally the exact opposite of what usually happens, right? So Democrats are literally relying on bucking history, right, in order to win, okay? So the numbers that we have to pay attention to here are the election day voting numbers for Democrats. They're going to have to run it up at a historic pace unless, again, you're assuming that a lot of the Republican votes are going to Kamala Harris, okay, and no Democrat votes are going to Trump, right? You have to make that assumption, and all of the unaffiliated votes are also going to Kamala as well, too, unless you make that assumption. But outside of that, Democrats are going to have to get extremely high turnout on election day today in order to win, okay? And again, in some states like Florida, again, this is preliminary. This is very early data. I'm just saying that early data is not suggesting that is happening, right? The early data is matching the early vote data in regards to Democrats not really showing up because, as you see here, this is as of 9:41 a.m. Again, still very early in the day. On election day in 2020, the Republicans won R plus 18.4. As of now, as of today, the GOP margin is R plus 22.5. Okay. Now that could change. Obviously it will change throughout the day, but at least as of right now, okay, the early results are showing that, well, it looks like the GOP could make Florida even more red. Now, again, we were having conversations just a couple days ago because the mainstream media was talking about that Iowa poll and how that poll could mean that Florida flips blue and yada, yada, yada. But again, according to the data that is coming in right now, in the early voting data, we're just not seeing that yet. But again, it's super early. We should not draw any definitive conclusions. Republicans have to go out and to continue to vote like never before. And I'm just telling you guys what you should pay attention to throughout the day in regards to how the election is going. Pay attention to the Democrat numbers, okay? If the Democrat numbers continue to be outpaced by the Republican numbers, it's not really looking good for Democrats. But again, you know, maybe, just maybe, those Republican votes are actually pro-choice women voting for Kamala Harris, right? I mean, at this point, that's what Democrats will have to hope for in order for Kamala Harris to win. I just doubt that's the case, but I'm just saying that is the key metric that people need to pay attention to. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.